Good morning. Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy and our country. Take back control. Everyone knows that slogan. And everyone knows what it meant on immigration, or at least that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face,
"Good day, Britain. Nigel Farage has just dropped a bombshell that should have every single person in this country paying attention. We're talking about the so-called Starmer boats, a fresh wave of illegal channel crossings, and a government that's essentially rolled out the welcome mat whilst telling British citizens on housing waiting lists to, well, keep waiting. The numbers are staggering, the hypocrisy is breathtaking, and the political fallout, absolutely delicious. Buckle up, because this story has more twists than a BBC political thriller. And spoiler alert, the ending isn't pretty for number 10. Right, quick favour before we dive into this absolute circus. If you're loving what we do here at British Mirror, hit that subscribe button. Over 94% of viewers haven't yet, which is genuinely mind-boggling. It's free, takes literally 1 second, and means a world to us. Also, smash that notification bell so you never miss when we expose the next political catastrophe. Seriously, you'll thank us later. Now, back to the show. So here's where we are. GB News has exclusively revealed that the first wave of small boat migrants of 2026 has already made it to UK shores, crossing the channel in sub-zero temperatures. Let that sink in for a moment. It's January, the water's freezing, and people are still making this journey. Around 3 dozen illegal migrants reached the UK just days after we learned that 2025's total hit a staggering 41,427. That's not a typo. 41,427 people. And here's the kicker. We're now fewer than 200 arrivals away from Sir Keir Starmer becoming the Prime Minister under whom the most migrants have crossed the Channel. Congratulations, Sir Keir. What a record to chase. Nigel Farage, speaking on GB News, didn't mince his words. He said we'll soon be calling these Starmer boats in every sense, and frankly, can you blame him? The irony is thicker than London fog. Labour promised to smash the gangs, to regain control, to restore order. Instead, we've got more people crossing than ever, more people in hotels than when they took power on July 4th last year, and a government that seems utterly clueless about how to stop the flow. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Farage dropped another revelation that might genuinely shock you. Of all the people claiming asylum in Britain, only around 40% arrive by small boat. Let that marinate. We spend all our time talking about channel crossings, the dramatic footage of dinghies, the rescue operations, the political theatre. Meanwhile, the majority are arriving through other means entirely. Some come in the backs of lorries, which sounds like something out of a thriller novel but is apparently standard procedure. Farage even joked that whilst he personally wouldn't fancy running along and jumping into a lorry, if he were 18 and fit, it probably wouldn't seem too difficult. There's even an advert circulating on TikTok, showing people exactly how to do it. TikTok, the same platform where teenagers post dance videos, is now a how-to guide for illegal immigration. You genuinely couldn't make this up. And here's where the story takes an even more infuriating turn. The biggest issue isn't even the boats or the lorries. It's people arriving from Pakistan and elsewhere on perfectly legal visas, then overstaying and claiming asylum. They're using the front door, not sneaking through the back. They are gaming the system in broad daylight, and apparently nobody in Whitehall has figured out how to stop them. Now, let's talk about what the government is actually doing about this crisis. Spoiler, you're going to need a stiff drink. Despite promising to reduce the number of migrants in hotels, there are currently more people in hotels now than when Labour won power. That's not progress. That's regression with a smile and a press release. But the real punchline? The government is now spending hundreds of millions of pounds buying brand new council homes to house people who cross the Channel or arrive in lorries. Brighton, Hove, Hackney, Peterborough, and Thanet have all agreed to take part in this scheme. Brand new council homes for illegal migrants, whilst 1.3 million British citizens sit on social housing waiting lists. Let me repeat that because it deserves emphasis. 1.3 million people, British citizens, people who paid taxes, follow the rules, done everything by the book, are waiting for social housing. And the government solution is to build new homes for people who broke the law to get here. Farage called it a sense of total unfairness at every level. And honestly, that might be the understatement of the century. This is the kind of story that makes your blood boil, the kind that makes people feel like mugs for playing by the rules. Reform UK's chief whip, Lee Anderson, didn't hold back either. He told GB News that there's little surprise migrants keep coming when this spineless, treacherous government is essentially rewarding illegal crossings with free housing. He called it an invasion that will never end under this government. And whilst that language is provocative, the sentiment resonates with millions. Anderson added that decent, hard-working Brits will ultimately bear the cost, and is not wrong. Every pound spent on housing illegal migrants is a pound not spent on British families in need. Every new home given to someone who crossed illegally is one less for a British citizen who's been waiting years. The Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, also weighed in, warning that the latest crossings prove ministers have no control of our borders whatsoever. He pointed out that the Prime Minister himself has admitted there's no effective deterrent in place. And that's the problem, isn't it? If there's no consequence, why would anyone stop coming? Philp insisted the only solution is to leave the European Convention on Human Rights and deport all illegal migrants within a week of arrival. Bold proposal. Controversial, certainly, but at least it's a plan, which is more than can be said for the current government's approach of hoping really hard that the problem solves itself. Sir Keir Starmer, meanwhile, remains defiant. In his first cabinet meeting of 2026, he issued a rallying cry that was part pep talk, part political manifesto. He insisted the UK will turn a corner this year on the migrant crisis and other matters. He framed the upcoming political battle as a choice between a Labour government renewing the country or a reform movement that feeds on grievance, decline, and division. He accused reform of wanting a weaker state, of injecting bile into communities, and even of wanting to appease Putin. Strong words. Fighting words. But here's the thing. Words don't stop boats. Words don't house British families. The political implications here are enormous. We're watching in real time as a Labour government that came to power promising change, promising to restore order, promising to fix the mess, is instead presiding over record-breaking channel crossings and policies that seem specifically designed to enrage the electorate. The Starmer boat's label is going to stick, and it should. This is happening on his watch. These are his policies. This is his legacy being written in real time, and it's not a flattering portrait. British politics is fractured into 5 roughly equal chunks, and the governing party is 4th or 5th depending on how you slice it. A staggering 68% of those surveyed by YouGov between December 27th and 29th said they disapproved of Sir Keir's government. 68%. More than 2/3 of the country actively disapproves. Just 12% said they approved. 12%. That's not just unpopular. That's historically, catastrophically, career-endingly unpopular. Another poll in November showed half of Labour voters want Sir Keir to quit. Half of his own voters. Not opponents, not swing voters, but people who actually voted Labour in July 2024 now think he should resign. When your own supporters have turned against you, you've got a problem that can't be fixed with better messaging or policy tweaks. You've got a fundamental crisis of confidence. Sir Keir's future at number 10 is likely to be decided on May 7th when elections will be held for the Welsh Senedd, Scottish Parliament, and local authorities in England. May 7th. That's the real deadline. Not 2027. Not the next general election, but May 7th, 2026. If Labour gets hammered in those elections, and all evidence suggests they will, the pressure on Sir Keir will become unbearable. Backbench MPs facing decimation in their constituencies will start demanding change. Party donors will panic. The media will declare his premiership finished. He might survive, but he'll be mortally wounded, a zombie prime minister limping towards inevitable defeat. Labour currently leads the Senate, but is expected to get a drubbing at the polls in what would mark an historic defeat for Welsh Labour, which has been in power since devolution began in 1999. Since devolution began, Labour has controlled Wales for a quarter century. If they lose that stronghold, it's not just politically embarrassing, it's symbolically devastating. It would signal that even in Labour's traditional heartlands, even in areas that have voted Labour for generations, the party is being rejected. That's not a temporary blip. That's a fundamental realignment. While Sir Keir and his cronies are emphasizing stability and talk of efforts to ease the cost of living, others are waiting in the wings to take the helm. Waiting in the wings. That's diplomatic language for sharpening their knives. Health Secretary Wes Streeting, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, and Mayor of Greater Manchester Andy Burnham have all been reported as harboring leadership ambitions. Harboring leadership ambitions. That's a delicate way of saying they are positioning themselves to replace Sir Keir when, not if, he falls. These aren't idle rumors. These are serious politicians with significant support bases calculating when to make their move. Wes Streeting is particularly interesting because he's been remarkably visible and outspoken for a health secretary. His taken on the NHS, the unions, and vested interests with a boldness that contrasts sharply with Sir Keir's caution. Whether you agree with his positions or not, he's demonstrating political courage and clarity that makes him an obvious alternative if Labour decides they need a change. Shabana Mahmood as Home Secretary is handling some of the most contentious issues around immigration and law and order, giving her visibility and authority. Andy Burnham, meanwhile, has cultivated an image as a successful regional leader who actually delivers for his constituents, offering a contrast to Westminster dysfunction. The fact these names are being openly discussed as potential replacements, while Sir Keir insists he'll still be Prime Minister next year, tells you everything about how weak his position actually is. Strong leaders don't face constant speculation about their successors. Secure prime ministers don't have to repeatedly insist they'll still be in post 12 months hence. The very fact that Keir is making these statements reveals how precarious his situation has become. He's not projecting strength. He's desperately trying to stave off a leadership challenge he knows is coming. What makes Sir Keir's position particularly tragic is that he won such a massive majority, 411 seats. A parliamentary landslide, the kind of majority most politicians dream about, the kind of majority that should give you freedom to implement your vision, to take bold action, to transform the country. Instead, Sir Keir has squandered that majority through timidity, poor communication, and policies that alienate both his progressive base and the working-class voters Labour needs to retain. He has managed the extraordinary feat of uniting both wings of his coalition in disappointment and frustration. The comparison to the conservative chaos of 2022 and 2023 is instructive, but not in the way Sir Keir thinks. Yes, the constant leadership changes were damaging. Yes, the instability hurt the country. But at least the Conservatives recognized when leaders had failed and removed them. Liz Truss lasted 4 to 9 days because her policies crashed the economy and her party removed her. That's accountability. What Sir Keir is arguing for is that Labour should stick with him regardless of performance, regardless of polling, regardless of electoral consequences, because changing leaders would be chaotic. That's not stability. That's stubbornness. That's prioritizing his own position over the party's electoral prospects.